Hello everyone, welcome back to Discovering Dawson's Creek for a rather unplanned, poignant episode today. I think we knew it was going to have some emotional moments anyway, given that we are talking the series, the season 4 finale today, of course, and the nature of what happens in that episode. But very sadly, this comes just a week or so after the very unfortunate passing of James Van Der Beek, who we obviously knew was quite ill, had colorectal or bowel cancer or something of that nature.
Yeah.
And we hadn't been getting much really from him for a while, had we? I think there was a message around New Year's from himself. There was that special sort of Dawson's Creek, all the cast coming back together
to do scene readings in New York, to raise money.
The sort of back end of last year, but it so something like this was somewhat expected to come because we knew James Van Der Beek was very ill, obviously, but coming as quickly and suddenly as it seemed to be told to us in the last week was very sad indeed. And it's strange how these things happen sometimes, because this season 4 finale is all about saying goodbye to Dawson. So it's particularly poignant, I think, that we end up talking about this right now, given that, well, everybody's been saying goodbye to Dawson for the last week and a half, haven't they? Which is a very sad thing. Obviously, you have more of a lifetime viewing relationship with James Van Der Beek than I do. I have seen him in things before, we started discovering Dawson's Creek here. But I can imagine this one hit you pretty hard, and I feel like we need to open this show today, given that we're only talking about one episode. The season 4 finale, it won't be as long an episode as is typical for Discovering Dawson's Creek, but I feel like we need to open with just a bit of a remembrance and a memoriam for James Van Der Beek, who obviously you wouldn't have this show without. He's the
him.
Complete anchor, right?
He was a huge part of my growing up, of my teen years. I had posters of him on my wall. I was aware of who he was even before Dawson's Creek. I have a diary entry in my, Dawson's Creek binder that I pull out every time we talk about this show on the premiere day of Dawson's Creek, because I had recognized him from the very first acting thing he ever did on an episode of Clarissa Explains It All, this Nickelodeon show that I watched all the time. And then he was in this teen movie Angus, where he was playing the bully. So as soon as I saw the little preview for this new show that was coming out, I immediately recognized him as this cute guy that I had seen in these other little projects. He would then be the star of this show, and I would follow his other works. Here's my VHS copy of Varsity Blues, and I just loved that, post Dawson's Creek, he would kind of be in on the joke of the character in the show, making funny little cameo appearances in Scary Movie and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, which Kevin Smith wrote a really beautiful post about James. And then he did the Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23, where he was playing this ridiculous kind of cocky satirical version of James Van Der Beek, which was so lovely to see him have kind of this great comedy bug in him to do something like that.
I want to say that was the first thing I saw him in, to be honest with you, because I watched that show when it came out, and that's like 15 years old now as a show or something like that, isn't it? So
and and he was hilarious in that show, and, he would go on to do all kinds of stuff, and, um, yeah, just hearing him, share his diagnosis. I know he had done, like, this full Monty kind of thing to raise awareness about it, in the early kind of stages of it, so that's when I had heard about it. One of my best friends, Kevin, he survived colorectal cancer.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law survived colorectal cancer. So when he announced it early on, it felt like, okay, maybe he's caught it early enough. So in the back of my mind, there were hopes that he would, come
Yeah.
through and hopefully kind of, fight it. And, years had passed since he was, had shared the diagnosis. So I thought, okay, maybe. And then he started to look very kind of gaunt and thin, very much like,
Yeah.
the trajectory that Chadwick went through, kind of
Yeah.
looking more, it being more visible. Um, and then we got that news. So yeah, it was really rough because this guy was a huge part of, you know, my teen years. And I cite Dawson's Creek as my all-time favorite show. So yeah, it was really hard to see that happen and for him to leave his beautiful family behind, 6 children, his wife,
Yeah.
Kimberly. Um, yeah, and so it was nice to see though all the outpouring of love. He there was a GoFundMe made for him because, people have this idea that, people who are in shows and movies, actors, are millionaires. But the kind of truth of the matter is that a lot of he doesn't he because it was such an early kind of show before a lot of kind of, syndication things and then the streaming
Yeah.
platform kind of developed. He didn't make any kind of residual money off of Dawson's Creek. So the fact that it would be replayed and shown on different channels, he wasn't seeing it really anything for that. Um, and so, there was a GoFundMe set up to help kind of his family keep their home and, pay any bills that were kind of left behind that, his wife didn't work, 6 children.
Yeah.
And so it was really lovely to see, Dawson Leary's favorite director, Steven Spielberg, donate
Yes.
a very generous amount to that GoFundMe. And just lovely to see all of the people who, whose lives he touched, even in the small ways, people who worked with him. One of the actresses from Don't Trust the Bee, I saw her post. His ex-wife, she posted something. Joel McHale, he had done some singing show with his daughter, and Joel McHale was hosting it. He said something. He had done this like Western Texas Rangers with Dermot Mulroney or Dylan McDermott. We get them Dylan
Always
McDermott.
confuse them.
Yeah, with Dylan McDermott, and he did a nice post. Of course, we saw stuff from a lot of the cast members. And so it was just lovely to see kind of every little facet of things he touched. Beautiful image from Alfonso Ribeiro, who
Yeah.
host Dancing with the Stars. I got to see him in his final days and posted something as they became very close when he was a contestant on there, and his partner, she posted something, his dance partner. So just really lovely to see and really sad. And while it kind of was kind of sort of expected, it doesn't make it hurt any less. So
No.
yeah.
Being something being expected like this doesn't make anything any easier. I was just very,
Yeah.
I think, moved by the amount of positivity
Yeah.
thrown his way because he seemed like such a loving individual in
Yeah.
his kind of real life, such a very positive
Mhm.
person.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that everybody who seemed to work with him got that impression from him and felt that from him. And
Yeah.
that's a very positive force to put into the world. You know, not quite the same as Dawson Leary himself, who can be a
Yeah.
deeply annoying character a lot of the time.
Yes. But I think even in the past few, episodes, and even in the past few seasons, we've kind of like post all of the kind of love triangle stuff. We've really
Yeah.
commended the character for a lot of growth, and we always kind of call out the times when Dawson is very mature and doing
Yeah.
very good things that we don't expect, and seeing a bit of growth with him. But he would be the first to tell you that Dawson is kind of obnoxious as
Which I
well.
think
So
is the great
yeah.
thing, and it was lovely to see all that. Obviously, a very sad time, a very sad loss. I do think we maybe want to read Katie Holmes' message
Yes.
before we get
So there
into
were
talking about the episode, but this one felt particularly poignant for us on discovering Dawson's Creek. But it's, you don't have Dawson without Joey, do you? So it just
yes. I
feels
mean,
right.
yeah, so we got a bunch of lovely messages from different members posted, but yes, I think Katie's is probably the best one to read for what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
And she wrote a handwritten letter and just posted like a picture of the letter. James, thank you. To share space with your imagination is sacred. Breathing the same air in the land of make believe and trusting that each other's hearts are safe in their expression. There are some of the memories, along with laughter, conversations about life, James Taylor songs, adventures of a unique youth. Bravery, compassion, selflessness, strength, an appreciation for life, and the action taken to live life with the integrity that life is art. Creating a beautiful marriage, 6 loving children, the journey of a hero. I mourn this loss with a heart holding the reality of his absence and deep gratitude for his imprint on it. To Kimberly and the children, we are here for you always and will always be there to shower you with love and compassion.
There you go. That's what James would want, isn't it? Showering people with love and compassion. It's what he seemed to do. A beautiful message from Katie Holmes there.
Yeah.
As I said, you don't have Dawson without Joey. And as this episode would also have you believe, Jeannine, as we move on into talking about the episode now, you can't have Dawson without Joey. We're going a little bit back. We're backtracking a little bit in emotional mentalities, aren't we? On the show, it's almost like it's the end of season 1 again. For goodness,
I know. I mean, in this episode, calling back to a lot of moments was kind of like a greatest hits list of moments, and just the fact that like I forgot, and the timing of it, watching it and realizing it's this episode where everyone is struggling even to say goodbye to Dawson is just I was a bit of a mess, to say the least.
It's the very it's crazy how these things kind of end up falling into place sometimes and landing sometimes. It's very uncanny, really. But it certainly feels very much like a finale episode.
It does.
I mean, you'd go as far as to say it could potentially feel like a
just
series
end the show.
finale.
Yeah.
Like never mind just a season finale, literally saying goodbye to Capeside. Dawson's Creek is the title of the show. It's all about Dawson and the creek. He ain't going to be at the creek anymore. He's going to be in LA.
Exactly. So then it kind of ends up turning into Joey's college. In the next
Joey's College, it's not called Dawson's Creek at all. It's now called Joey's Time in Boston.
Exactly.
But it's yes, we've got the binder out here, haven't we? Do we want to get into the synopsis now? Yes.
So Coda, episode 23, aired May 23rd, 2001. Accepted early to USC, Dawson finds his last night in Capeside has arrived much sooner than everyone had originally anticipated. While Dawson looks forward to spending the evening with Joey, Jack, and Jen, Mitch has other ideas. Meanwhile, Dawson's not the only goodbye Jen has in store for her, as she bids farewell to the house she's been sharing with Grams. And finally, Joey says goodbye to Dawson in her own way.
Yes, she does. No, let's not forget that also there's a nice phone call from Pacey on his Caribbean gallivanting.
Yeah.
You know, let's not forget that also happens. But there is a lot of bittersweet goodbyes in this episode. It's what this whole episode is built around, really, isn't it? And some characters, I think, take it better than others. Like, I like that, obviously, Jen's put to the side again, and Jen and Grams have their own little goodbye to the house sort of situation.
Yeah.
The last few nights there, when everything's packed up and they can't really cook anything because everything's packed up. They can't really have a tea because they've packed up the kettle and things like that, and it's all a bit higgledy-piggledy and mishmash everywhere. But there's a real poignancy to kind of the moving on of that situation. You know, Jen's obviously leaving different chapters in our life. Can bond people closer together, and I think certainly Jen and Grams have been bonding closer together over the course of 4 seasons now, and I think that's really, really strengthened. This particular new chapter now of selling Grams' house, moving out, you know, does Grams comes with them to Boston? I assume this is what happens. Forgive me if I've not remembered this properly.
Yeah, I don't know if they like explicitly kind of said, but she ends up getting a place in Boston, and I think Jen and Jack live there with her.
Yeah,
and her house becomes kind of ground central for any kind of thing for our Boston people.
Yeah. So it makes sense. It's a change, but it is a strengthening. Like I said, it's a strengthening of their relationship, and I've always found it a very beautiful relationship, really, to delve into, to sit with, and to watch blossom. So there's a tear to the eye when they have to say goodbye to this house, and you're seeing everything packed up. It comes as secondary, really, to the main storyline of this episode, which is this Dawson coming to this realization of, oh dear, I have to leave tomorrow. Why do you have to leave tomorrow? Well, I've been accepted early and they want me there
early
tomorrow.
Summer program. Yes. And so there's another kind of ask me to stay situation. We got that kind of thing with Joey and Pacey when that whole thing was brewing. But now it's very much kind of this build up of should Joey ask Dawson to stay if that's what she really wants. And she kind of tries to deny that that's what she wants to do because she doesn't want to get in his way or feel like she's holding back or thinks it might be selfish to ask, or even kind of in the weird stage their friendship is she allowed to ask? So that's kind of the whole up in the crux of this is what is their goodbye gonna look like? I think they both kind of are putting a lot of pressure on this goodbye, and Joey kind of wondering if she should ask him to stay, and Dawson maybe kind of partly wanting her, knowing what his answer will be, but still kind of wanting her to ask to know that that's something she wanted. And, I think old Dawson would be really kind of obnoxious about it. But of course, this now mature Dawson has a really great response when that ultimately does come up. So,
yeah. I mean, how do you feel about this now? Is it maybe different given that can we differentiate what's happened with James in real life and, I know it may be hard to kind of differentiate what's happened in real life with James from the emotion of the sort of this Dawson and Joey goodbye, but what have you felt about this particular goodbye in the past? What did you feel at the time when you were watching this originally? How do you feel about it now upon this particular rewatch? Is it something that feels like we're backtracking in an emotional relationship again to something that we thought we'd left a few seasons behind? And do we really need to be semi-revisiting this now for seemingly no good reason other than to emotionally manipulate the audience? Or is it something that you feel is necessary in a goodbye? I mean, it's not a goodbye forever, is it?
No, because they even talk about like holidays are gonna see each other and those kind of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it works. I think it would be kind of a big deal because, we opened this series with them in this bed talking about how things are going to change as they go into sophomore year of high school. So the fact that they are now in this bed again, and it's this even kind of bigger step, and it's not just a step into a new age for them. It's a step into a separation. It's a leaving home. It's a huge kind of deal. So I think the fact that they've been kind of spending so much time together and been getting their friendship back on track, and this is very much a huge step for them. I think it makes sense that there are kind of these stressful, nervous, kind of built up feelings about what the goodbye looks like. And I don't think it's playing it for kind of the back and forth romantic aspect. I think they're at such a much more honest place. I mean, we hear them joking about him making out with Eve and her, you know,
Yeah.
throwing herself at Dawson and him rejecting her. And so the fact that they can kind of joke and laugh about those things, and even him asking her about Pacey and like her, and how she feels about him kind of leaving and them not talking. The fact that they're having kind of the most open, honest conversation, it shows this really interesting shift that I think makes what is kind of happening between them in this episode really interesting, really impactful in kind of showing us the growth and us kind of getting this really great presentation of the growth of these characters, while also reminding us of who they were the first time we met them in this very bed. So it's kind of like this really great mind juxtaposition that the episode does.
Yeah.
It's harkening back, and we're talking about things that happened in that very first pilot episode. So the fact that we're kind of referencing that and then seeing them kind of laugh about the past, it's just a clear kind of example of getting to see this character growth and reminding us of, yeah, they really have changed a lot since that first season.
Yeah.
So
I think
I think it
that's
all makes
honestly
sense. I
what
don't think
makes
we're
it.
backtracking. I think it's definitely just showing us like how much they've changed.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. I can be one
Yes.
for really hating.
Feel like they're treading old ground, or
I
pulling out the
really
same
can't be
old kind
doing
of
with.
plot points. Yes, you're very
I really, really is the one thing I really can't stand about some TV is that it just
yeah.
overdoes the same storylines and the same emotional moments and things like that.
Yeah.
And Dawson's Creek has fallen foul of doing that in the
Sometimes,
past.
yeah. Mhm.
Does this one feel particularly different? It does, for those reasons I think you've explained. I think the two of them's maturity levels have grown so significantly
Mhm.
that yes, this does feel different. And even though we ultimately end this whole episode with a fairly passionate Dawson and Joey kiss, which
Yes.
very, very strongly harkens back to the end of
Yes,
season
I mean,
one.
the same window silhouette. I think they're playing the same song, the "Say Goodnight, Not
Yeah.
Goodbye" song, that they played when they kissed that first time. I mean,
But
purposely meant to kind of evoke all of that.
of course it is.
But the
But it,
context feels completely different.
absolutely,
It feels like a
absolutely.
goodbye kiss, not the start of something else,
No.
or
And
the
that's
or the
why
going back to something that we've seen
no.
before.
That's why they do it in that way. That's why they frame it in exactly the
Yeah.
same way. They have that
Yeah.
same song playing. They do it in the exact same
Mhm.
location. We are meant to think of that original kiss
Yeah.
and go, well, this is different this time. This
Yeah.
is something that they just feel they need to do, but
Mhm.
quite clearly and healthily move on from. They just
Yeah.
need this one last little moment, and that's
Yeah.
okay. We all
Yeah.
have these kind of things in our lives. So I quite like, in a strange way for me, that the
Yeah.
episode ends with that, just because I see the growth in these characters at
Mhm.
the end of this. And again, it's what makes it feel like a show finale and not just a season finale.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
this relationship, ultimately, Dawson and Joey has been the relationship, friendship, romantic relationship,
Mhm.
hate each other relationship of the whole show. It's been
Yeah.
the through line of the whole show. This feels like a culmination of it. It does feel like I'm fascinated to go forward into these last couple of seasons now, because it almost feels like it's going to be a spin-off.
Yeah.
And I suppose it maybe does feel like a spin-off. You know, we've joked, I think, of, oh, are we looking forward to Dawson's Creek, the college years, as it's known,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it really, really does feel like it's going to be a spin-off. This feels like the end of a story.
Yeah.
And yes, it's what it should feel like at the end of a season, sure, but it feels so much more final than the
It does.
end of any other season.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I'm
yeah,
interested.
I totally get what you're saying. I mean, we opened this episode of the two of them watching the movie that we saw them making in the first episode. Um
Yes. And saying, "Oh, look how bad and amateurish it is. I've grown so much since since
Yes,
this
and then
time of
even Dawson
filmmaking."
talking yeah, and then even him following it up, talking about, and then the next movie I would make is this ridiculous vanity project, which was that Creek Times movie that he kind of tried to make
Yes.
about kind of his life and stuff. So just like the, the self-awareness that's coming from these characters, I think is great. And again, yes, it totally feels like a series finale in a lot of ways. I mean, I loved the moments between Jen and Joey and their kind of, that conversation they have, where Jen, ever insightful, kind of shoulder to cry on kind of character. She's who she's become in like these last couple seasons.
Yeah.
Um, she kind of clocks right away that Joey's kind of having this looming difficulty in saying goodbye to Dawson, and that it's gonna be this big deal, and so I love the kind of conversation. She's like, "Oh, yeah, all the things that annoy us about Dawson, the way he puts you on a pedestal," and so we can think of moments when he did that to Jen and
Yeah.
where he did that to Joey, and, Joey calling back to, a box dye blonde joke that she made about Jen, like, in that early seasons when she was jealous of
Yeah.
her, and Joey, like, apologizing for being terrible, like, all of that stuff, just, the nostalgia pings I was getting, it was, again, just making it feel like we could really just end the show right here, and I think it would be kinda perfect.
Yeah.
So
I would be happy to not even bother
yeah.
with Dawson's Creek, the college years, to be honest with you. I think everybody ends this in such a pleasant sort of way. I think it's a really,
Yeah.
really positive, yes, sad to an extent that everybody's moving on, everybody's turning over a new leaf. But you think about where all these characters end. Dawson's actively going off to USC to do his film. This is what he wants
Mhm.
to do. You know, Joey's going to be going off to college. Jen's going
Yeah.
to be going off to college. Jack's going to be going off to college, and he has Toby. You know, Mitch and
Joey.
Gail
As much as
have,
we
I know,
love
we don't
Joey.
like Toby, but he has Toby, and that's good for Jack. You know, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Does he not have Toby? Am I missing?
I mean,
I'm
he
look.
he
I'm
has his
pontificating about the end of this particular
yes,
finale. This
no.
is how
But
we
if nothing
end,
else,
and this
he
is
yes, but if nothing else, he has his more openness about being gay
sure. Yeah,
going into
okay,
college life.
that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. But ultimately, as far as we're aware, if the show was
Yeah,
to end
so
now, he ends in a good relationship,
yeah.
as far as we're aware. Mitch and Gail are back in Cape Side with another child, so they're not alone.
Yeah.
Grams is moving on to Boston to
To be
be
with
with
Jen
everybody again.
and start a new phase in her
So,
kind of life as well.
and
Yeah.
Pacey is gallivanting off on the boat, doing, you know, living his own life on the open sea,
And
as
got
he
out of
would
Cape
want
found his
to
way
do.
and found his way to get out of Cape Side, which was what he wanted as well. So, yeah.
Literally, everybody ends this episode in a way they want to end it.
Yeah.
So, and everybody ends this season in a way they want to end it. It begs the question, why not end the show here? Was it just too popular? Did it just need to carry on at the
I
time?
mean, yeah, I mean, I don't remember kind of what was going on. I'm sure our great supporter and friend Eric Monroe, who, knows
Yes.
this show forwards and backwards, he might have some more kind of insider information. I don't remember if it was kind of a point where they were trying to decide on whether the show was going to go on, and so that's why they kind of, because shows will do that. They'll literally kind of
Yeah.
film their season finale kind of so that it could work as a series finale just in case they don't get picked up. I know I listened to the Boy Meets World podcast with the three actors from that show, and they've kind of talked about kind of doing things like that just in case, because they weren't sure if they were going to get picked up. So I mean, it
Yeah.
could be a case like that they, weren't sure what their fate was. Or, yeah, maybe it was a case that, it was just, a popular show and they knew that this was kind of going to be the last Cape Side thing. So let's really do a great job tying up Cape Side before we kind of move to a completely different location. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to kind of maybe look into what was going on with all of that, for sure.
Look, they do that, and look, it's a very sort of thematic episode as well. I mean, they all go out to watch American Graffiti at the
Yeah.
cinema, don't they? Obviously, that's a movie about, the last summer before college, isn't it? So it's literally
Very
mirroring life here. So it's the exact
Yeah.
same. But if there's one character, to be honest, that doesn't really take all this goodbye well at all, quite strangely enough, it's Mitch, who acts a bit petty about the whole situation.
Yeah. So, again, and we're getting like familiar locales as well. We see the kind of our four friends hanging out at the ruins. This is the place where
Yeah.
Dawson was trying to like fabricate the first kiss with Jen and caught
Yeah, the
Pacey on
creepy
camera
one, and
sleeping
try and
with the
film
teacher.
it. Yeah.
Yes. And he ended up catching Tamara and Pacey.
Oh, yes.
There was the first kind of early season of Dawson and Joey as a couple. They would go to the ruins to make out because they couldn't make out in his room. So it was nice to kind of see a familiar locale, but he's like, okay, guys, I gotta go. And also like the what's kind of worse game that they were playing. And Dawson coming up with the really
Yeah.
kind of gross, what would you rather like do? Watch, I think, the principal like sleep with Grams, or
Yeah, I don't know
yeah,
why they were coming up with this. Why we're thinking about, Principal Harry Shearer and
yeah, and Grams.
Grams.
Yeah, but that
Like,
was gross
Mr.
enough to
Mr.
like
Brooks has just died. He's not
I
died
know.
that long ago. Let's not move
Like
Grams's
Grams
romantic
with the
interests
gross,
onto
weird cellist
Principal
principal.
Skinner.
Yes, but Dawson, he ends up leaving early because he's got to meet his dad because his dad wants to buy him a laptop for school. So Mitch
He also
putting a
doesn't
lot of
want a
thought.
laptop.
Yeah. So I mean, Mitch has put a lot of thought and research into
He
this laptop.
has.
Oh yeah, this
He
is the best
has.
one. It's got, the best features and all this kind of thing. And Dawson's kind of looking over and he sees somebody on a Mac and he's like, I think this is, a Mac might be more my style. And he's like, well, no, we're getting this one because this one's better. And he's like, but I kind of maybe want a Mac. Well, no, you're getting this one. And he's like, well, then I don't want it. If you're going to get me something I don't want, like, you might as well just not give me anything at all. Like, I don't want you to give me this gift on your terms. But Mitch doesn't listen, and he's like, he gets him the one that Mitch wants to get him, and so Dawson's kind of like, okay. And so
Listen,
it's
I
just kind of
think
a small little simmering of like, Mitch not being able to really be honest about kind of his sadness for his son leaving.
no, and this is strange, I think, from Mitch. It's quite strange behavior. He's always
Yeah.
seemed look, he's gone through he went through the ringer a bit in early seasons, didn't he, when there was
Yeah.
separated from
Well, he
Gale and
was
all
also
this
getting on
business.
our nerves there because he was, like, stringing Gale along, like, if you are still
Yeah, I
holding
mean,
on to
that's
what
true.
she did and you can't get past it, then stop giving her hope. Like, Gale was literally at a point like, "Mitch, if you're done with me, then just be done with me. But don't
Yeah.
make me feel like you're trying and we're gonna work on it, and then you shun me every time I try to get close to you."
I mean,
So he was
that's a
kind
great point. Maybe Mitch does have previous in not actually being
Yeah.
able to end things properly.
Yeah, so I think there has been little glimmers to show Mitch struggles with kind of tying a bow up on something. He
Yeah.
struggles on kind of ending situations. And I think it's just and you read it as out of a place of just deep care, but it's also kind of a frustrating way to go about instead of just saying, "I'm really gonna miss my son." It's,
Yeah.
I'm gonna, like, pull rank and authority over him, to 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 deflect from the fact that I'm really, sad that he's leaving.
Yeah. You do.
So
You understand it. And of course, it's lovely that he wants to buy Dawson a really good quality laptop to go off
yeah,
to college with. Obviously, that's a lovely thing. I think Dawson realizes that's a lovely thing, but
yeah,
it's no way to go about doing it. Is do this. No,
yeah,
we're getting you this one. I don't actually want that though, Dad.
yeah,
We're getting you it, and then I'm gonna storm off and walk home and say, go on the warpath a bit, carrying this laptop. You might as well have bought the laptop for yourself, Mitch.
exactly, and that's what kind of Dawson was saying to him. So then, they get back and, Joey's waiting for Dawson because 'cause they're gonna get together with Jack and Jen and go watch this movie.
Yeah,
And he's like, "Okay, bye, mom. I'll see you later." And Mitch is like, "What? Where are you going? We're supposed to set this thing up and have dinner with your family on your last night." And he's like, "Well, no, I want to spend my last night with my friends. I'll be home later and we can hang out then." He's like, "No, you're staying for dinner. Like, how dare you? I'm so, it's very
you've been
disappointing that you
spending time with your friends
with your
every
friends
single
all."
day, all summer. It's like, all
Well,
right,
yeah,
okay.
and like and Mitch makes a big deal and he even kind of tries to pull authority on Dawson, like, "No, you're staying for dinner," kind of thing.
He gets a bit
And
stroppy, does Mitch? I mean, I
yes,
understand it. I understand it
but
from
it's
Mitch's
still
point of
very
view.
frustrating.
Of
Yeah,
course, he
his
wants to
son.
spend this time, the last night with his son.
Yeah,
Obviously, he wants to do this, but it's just not the way of going about it.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
Gail also wants to spend the last night with her son, but her son is also a person with his own decisions to make. So, and we have to keep remembering, I think, that I know this is such a significant part of any parent's life. For example, obviously we're not familiar with this kind of mentality, but
yeah,
obviously your child going off to college, going off to university
yeah,
would be massively significant. It would feel like, you know, leaving the nest, for example, that whole situation, that
yeah.
whole kind of idea.
Mhm.
But so obviously it's going to be effective. Obviously it's going to or affect you, I should say. Obviously it's going to be emotional for you
Yeah.
as the parent.
Mhm.
But also, if you want to treat that child in the best way possible, you've got to realize that child is now a fully fledged person and not a child
Yeah,
necessarily anymore.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
That your child, who is not a child anymore, must be allowed to make their own decision. So if they
exactly.
want to spend their last night, what quite poignantly watching American Graffiti, a movie
With their
about
friends,
exactly what
yeah,
they're all going through right now with their
yeah.
own friends, you know, let them go and do
Let
that.
'em do
You're
it,
going
yeah.
to see them again. Are you
Yeah.
not going to see them again? You know, he's going to come back for
Yeah,
you're going to go and see him for Thanksgiving. You know, he's going to come back for Christmas and all this kind of, all the holiday situation. This is what happens with people
exactly.
at
Yeah,
university.
but feeling like he needs to lord that last bit of parental authority in the last little nugget of time that he has is a little bit
Use
much.
all that on Lily. You know, you want to use
Yes,
all that on Lily,
exactly.
not on Dawson now.
Yes, so Mitch kind of storms off, and Gail's like, "Just go, honey, go with your friends, have fun," that whole kind of thing. So, end of
Thanks,
the
Mom.
night. Yeah, exactly. So, end of the night, it's kind of this big build up to the goodbye between Dawson and Joey. And it's very kind of underwhelming. She's just like, "Goodbye, Dawson,"
Mm.
like, because she doesn't know
It's
what to say. She doesn't know,
yeah.
like,
I mean,
he doesn't really know what
the
to
funny thing
say.
is about it. The hilarious thing is about it is that obviously Jen and Jack are in this car with them as well,
Yeah.
and Jen and Jack are just meaningful in their goodbye, but far more casual, obviously.
Yeah.
But even they're shocked at how casual Joey tries to be about the whole situation. It's like,
Yeah,
you
yes,
can't
and
just, you're not us, Joey. You know, we're not you. You mean more in this
more to him.
situation. Go and
Yes, this
say
is a
goodbye
bigger
properly.
deal. Yes, so they're on her stoop, and he's kind of saying goodbye, and they're kind of going in the back and forth. "Oh, so I'll see you for Thanksgiving. Oh, actually, my parents and Lily are probably gonna come down to LA for
Yeah,
Thanksgiving. Oh, well, then Christmas. Yes, Christmas for sure. Okay, well,
definitely
I
Christmas.
guess this is it, Dawson. Okay, bye,"
Bye.
and then a hug, and then she goes in, and you see her kinda hesitate, and he's standing out there a little dumbfounded, and he maybe turns around and thinks about going back, and then he doesn't. And so it's
Yeah.
just kind of like, ugh, that was not good. That was very anticlimactic. Like, I think we're even feeling like, "Ugh, that was kinda,
Oh
it
yeah.
didn't have no
At
that had
that
no
point, I was
flavor."
thinking. At that point, I really was thinking, like, they're not going to end it like that, are they? Surely.
Yeah. And he even has kind of a better goodbye with Jen because it's like she lives next door to him. So when Jack drops him off, she's like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry you're stuck with me as your last goodbye." And he's like, "No, no, I'm happy that it's you," and that whole kind of thing. And so they have a very kind of sweet goodbye. And then he goes inside and he gets a phone call. And the
He
phone call is
does.
from Pacey.
Living
And
it up
Pacey,
on whatever random Caribbean island he may be on at this
yeah.
particular time. I don't think it's quite specified, is it, where he
No,
is?
no, no. So he borrows a phone from one of his fellow, like, crew guys, and he talks about this is kind of the hardest work he's ever done, but he really loves it.
He looks
Um,
very kind of windswept and saltwater swept,
yeah,
doesn't he, as well?
exactly. He's got a little 5 o'clock shadow going, his best Hawaiian shirt. And I like that he says that, like, Dawson was, and this, of course, just hit even harder that, like,
Yeah.
Dawson was the one person he regretted not giving a proper goodbye to.
Yeah.
And, I think we talked a lot about how this show kind of underserves that friendship. We've gotten a handful of glimmers where the friendship was kind of at its strongest. And then a lot of times it's Dawson not being the best friend to Pacey. So
Oh,
to kind of
consistently more terrible than they have been
yeah, then
good, seeing
then good
friends.
moments. Exactly. Um, so to kind of have, in this episode that feels very kind of final and complete, to get a nice reminder that yes, they are best friends too. Yes, Joey and him are the, like, core friendship of the show, but Pacey's also his best friend. And they've had a rough it was much easier for Dawson and Joey to find a road back to friendship than it was for Pacey and Dawson.
Yeah.
So to kind of
Somehow, I mean, we had all those discussions
frustrations
time
about
ago when we
why
had them.
why is it so easy for you to forgive Joey but not Pacey? Like, ugh, like that
Didn't quite
annoying.
make sense to me.
Yes. So the fact that we get this really great moment of knowing that they're okay, that that relationship is intact, that Pacey, of all the people he could have called, because we established that he hasn't talked to Joey, he hasn't
Yeah.
called her or anything. Um, And Dawson even asks him, do you want me to get a message to Joey? Do you want to like talk to her? And he's like, I just don't know that I could handle that right now. Like, it's just a little difficult. But
He
you
needs
are the
to be
one
living
person.
his Caribbean life. This is
Exactly,
good for Pacey.
And they had a really nice goodbye at that
They
graduation party.
Yeah, they did.
Where he says, if I asked the girl I love to go sailing with me or whatever, would she say yes? And then Joey, I wouldn't even have to ask. And that's kind of, where the beautiful ending.
Yeah.
Leaving the door kind of open one day when the time is right kind of energy, right?
Sure.
So yeah, I don't think we need to feel any type of way about him wanting to talk to Dawson over Joey. I think we've established that we're just kind of settling on leaving that where it is for now.
And
but
this is all about goodbyes to Dawson anyway, this whole episode.
Yes. And so, and I think we need to know, and I don't think anything in this kind of reconciling of friendships and thing, have we really gotten any kind of strong thing to show that the Pacey-Dawson relationship is 100% okay. We've gotten little glimmers of them, when Gretchen was dating Dawson and stuff like that, and them kind of all hanging out as a group. And I think when Dawson even established that he liked Gretchen, we saw them kind of sitting on the dock, like fishing or whatever. But I don't think we've gotten any concrete, like, these guys are like where they used to be kind of thing. So this was
until
that.
Now.
And I think, and I think we needed that. So, I love that Pacey says, you're the one person that I wish I had given a proper goodbye to. So that's why I'm calling you now, as I wanted to say goodbye and wish you good luck and wish you all the best. And then when Dawson tells Pacey that he's proud of him, that really got me, because a lot of, the whole kind of relationship was Dawson kind of being, never having a care or worry in the world, and Pacey having the weight of the world on his shoulders, are what kind of these character archetypes are. So to hear that from Dawson, probably somebody that Pacey kind of, maybe looked up to in a lot of ways, and idealized in a lot of ways because of what his life looked like in comparison to his. To hear that from Dawson, for Dawson to recognize, because, I think when Pacey was going through his worst times, Dawson was very kind of selfish and self-involved.
Yeah, wasn't there.
And couldn't. Exactly. So the fact that, like, he gives Pacey this moment to show that, like, I've noticed what you've done. I've paid attention to what you've done, and I want you to know how proud of you I am, was just like, the best. It's a lovely sentiment, some great character growth on Dawson's part, because we've seen him be very kind of selfish in his friendship with Pacey, and so to see that, like, he's actually noticed the work that Pacey put in and acknowledges that was just very sweet. And I loved this little scene, and Pacey being away, whatever, like, to include Pacey and finding this really good way, I think, to include him in this final episode, despite not being in Cape Side, I think was a good way to incorporate him, and a strong way to incorporate him. So I loved that phone call scene a lot.
Absolutely. Completely agree there. I know obviously we've already kind of briefly talked about the need for the final kiss between Dawson and Joey. The fact it does not end outside the front door. They do go back inside. Far more emotional, far more meaningful, far more let's pour our hearts out, but not in a silly, immature sort of way. Let's just be honest with each other. And we're given the space to do that. But it's also, worth being said before we kind of wrap up today, that, it doesn't end in a petty place with Dawson and Mitch either. There's a little bit of of course, we maturity from Mitch as well, that he thinks about. Probably sorry about that, Dawson. Probably shouldn't have done that.
And he gets him. I just don't want to see. Goes back. He does go back and get him the Mac.
Yes, he does. He gets him the Mac. He does. There's just I just love you, son. It's kind of, it's just significant for me. It's just big. It's a situation. Things are changing. Can I quite handle it myself? And you understand all that from Mitch. Of course you do. Of
Mhm.
course, you understand all that from Mitch, but it's nice that, you know, we don't end that
End on a
situation
harsh.
either
Yes, we
in a
gotta
harsh
understand.
way, for example,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
In
We gotta
a rough way, in a petty way, in
yeah.
a silly sort of way. It would have felt I wouldn't have liked that in the slightest, to be
No,
honest with you, if it had
no.
have ended like that.
Yes, I like that that gets resolved, and, Mitch has always kind of been the biggest cheerleader for Dawson's dreams and passions for being a
Yeah,
filmmaker, so I'm glad it kind of ended where Mitch, takes a beat and hears out, like, what my son is saying, what my son wants, and let's do that, and put my kind of hard feelings of losing my son almost, to the
yeah,
side, and, you know, not ruin these last little bits of moment that I have with him. So I liked that.
yeah,
But yes, we have this thing, Dawson and Joey both feeling weird about the goodbye. So Dawson's getting all his stuff and getting ready to go head to Joey's to resolve it, and finds her on his lawn because she felt the exact same way about the
yes.
goodbye. That
Because it's as though they're a hive mind, isn't it? And they
yeah.
think the same thing.
Exactly. So then they end up in his room, and that's where we get, a lot of the stuff we discussed. Um them kind of rehashing old moments, and I think they're kind of asking each other questions like, what's your kind of most cringiest moment, what was your
Yeah,
favorite moment of the past few years, and that whole kind of thing, and they're just giving these really candid, honest answers, which I really appreciate seeing. And it ultimately ends up leading to Joey asking him to stay. She's doing it. She's like, "I
yeah.
know I shouldn't, and I know it's wrong, but I wanted to just ask, so you knew that that's what I wanted," um, and all that whole kinda thing. And Dawson, he's like, "I get why you asked, and I'm glad that you asked, but I can't." So I
Yeah,
love the maturity of his response. Like,
that's the
if I
perfect answer.
yeah, he's like, "If I felt like it would change anything, if I felt like, it would make things different or better, or, it was the right thing to do, I would stay in a heartbeat. But, I can't take away your opportunity to kind of move forward. I can't take away my opportunity to move forward. And I think we're in a really good place right now. So why kind of go back?" Is basically kind of how he explains it. But you can tell I think he wanted her to ask. I think he wanted to
Of
know that
course.
that's what she wanted, even though he probably always knew his answer would be no, because of just the good place that they're in right now, this really
Yeah.
honest place that they're in right now.
But that
Um
question leaves them in an even stronger place as well, because
mhm,
it feels like almost for the first time ever, they really know what each other's minds are and what each other's
yeah,
mindsets are.
yeah,
Like,
they've
there's no
listened.
guesswork at all.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
no, there's no thinking you might know what somebody's saying because of what they're saying. There's no emotional manipulation
Misinterpreting
going on. There's no
misinterpreting what the other is saying.
misinterpretation going on. This is pure, honest. I think this. I think this. We're both okay, aren't we? Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Great. Amazing. Perfect ending.
Yes, and then we, about to go out the window with the goodbye, they hug, and then they share that kiss, and the song
Yes.
kicks in, and we pan out to their silhouettes in the window kissing, and just pan out to the creek just like the finale of season 1, and
Yeah.
it's so perfect, it's perfect.
Lovely.
Yes,
Lovely.
and, if you're somebody like me who's watched the show multiple times, I love hearing, like, Dawson and Joey have a theme, and so when it kicks in, that just
Mm.
brings a lot of emotional
Yeah.
feels. So if you pay attention, like, listen, you'll hear kind of the same play of music whenever there's Dawson and
Okay.
Joey moments and that whole kind of thing. And Joey and Pacey also kind of have a little bit of a theme as well. So if you've watched as many times as me, like, you'll pick up on kind of character kind of themes. And so when those beats kick in, it adds a great kind of emotional weight
Yeah.
to scenes as well. So yeah.
Well, brings another tear to the eye, doesn't it? I think
Yeah.
this is the sort of thing that has happened the most today,
Yeah.
really, and in this particular episode, obviously, this particular time that we've been watching and talking about this episode brings an additional tear to
Yeah,
the
and
eye.
I'm really happy that you were able to watch a lot of this show before his passing, so you could have a
Yeah,
sense of what the show meant to people and the work that he did on this show, and kind of, probably the biggest thing that he is known for and done. So I'm glad you were able to
yeah.
get kind of context of James Van Der Beek as an actor and kind of his biggest role before his passing. So I'm glad we were
No,
able to do this, in a timeline that helped give at least a little bit of kind of context to like what he meant to people before his passing, for you to see that.
definitely very, very grateful for that. He will always be fondly remembered for Dawson's Creek, won't he? So
Yeah.
it'll always be there. This is the
Yeah.
great thing about actors, performers, and all this kind of stuff is, the good ones leave a significant legacy behind, and we can always go and remember them fondly, should we want to, because there's plenty there to watch of them. So
Yeah.
James Van Der Beek is no, he's no less exactly that, basically.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. So yes, lastly, another, rest in peace to James Van Der Beek.
Yes, rest in peace.
Hope your spirit is at peace, of course, now, and free from all the pain it's been going through. And all our thoughts are with his family, of course.
Yes.
And that's the best way to end this episode. Obviously, this is Discovering Dawson's Creek. We will be back in a couple of months-ish for season 5. I think. I don't think we're going to be going straight in to season 5. We're going to leave ourselves a small break to take a look at another show that will be alternating with diving into Doctor Who, that has since just returned as well here on a Monday on our TV-based shows on It's a Wonderful Podcast. But of course, Morgan Hasn't Seen is there every Wednesday, as well as the main show every Friday, celebrating old movies like we always love to do the most over on this show. Do subscribe wherever you are listening to the show today. On all major podcast platforms. Do subscribe and ding your notification bell on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel for all the video things we have there, including, of course, every TV-based show we have. Is always a video episode as well. And leave your comments on Spotify, rate and review everywhere. Leave your like, share it around, all the good stuff. If you would like to support us on Patreon or donate in any way, find links to do that in the description of today's episode. And of course, just find us on and across all the social medias, on the app formerly known as Twitter, and on Blue Sky at It's a Wonderful One. Find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at the Purple Dawn with a 3 instead of the E in the because, Jeannine.
3 is the magic number.
On Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at the Purple Dawn. All your Dawson's loving as well.
You can find me at Jeannine __ on Twitter, Jeannine Devine on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. And if you want to get a new merch for any of our shows, just check the description for the link or search G9 Design on tpublic.com.
Well, that does, of course, leave only one thing left to do. So for the last time in season 4, Jeannine, before a little break before season 5, take us out.
3, 2, 1.
Bye.
Bye.